Cities and towns are the landmarks of the Pokemon world, and if I do say so myself, are some of the most fun places to explore in the games. I always look forward to coming upon a brand new town in Pokemon, and that's why we are going to cover an awesome fact about every single city and town in the main series Pokemon games. This video idea was suggested to me by a commenter on a recent video who I sadly couldn't find the name of, but you know who you are and I appreciate you. And because there are so many cities and towns out there, we will just be covering the first 2 generations of towns today, and the rest will be in a few more videos in the future if this video does well. So if you want to see more, make sure to leave a like and a comment, because it really helps out. With that said though, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to begin our journey where any Pokemon journey begins, in our hometown, and more specifically, in the first hometown of them all, Pallet Town. What's interesting about this place is that Game Freak were seemingly pretty picky about some of the details of its appearance initially, as the doors, signs, fences, and even flowers that appear in Pallet Town all change in appearance from the Japanese red and green to the international red and blue, and then again from red and blue to yellow, which is a bit odd all things considered, but pretty interesting. Vermilion City, meanwhile, is the first place you come to outside Pallet Town, and it is home to the Viridian Gym. This gym is of course led by Giovanni, who specializes in ground types, and this type might actually be a reference to his role in the game as leader of Team Rocket, since Team Rocket is an underground organization that he is leading in secret, and also their base is quite literally underground underneath the Celadon Game Corner as well, making Giovanni's type specialty possibly a bit of a pun. Just like Pallet Town, Pewter City has also interestingly changed in appearance from its initial appearance in Red and Blue, as in Fire Red and Leaf Green, all of the mountains that surrounded the town were removed and replaced with trees, but then were reinserted in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. In these games, mountains were also placed behind the Pewter Museum, which weren't there in the original games, but they were actually there in a very, very early build of the game that dates all the way back to roughly 1992, back when the series was still known as Capsule Monsters. And whether that is coincidental or not, that gives those mountains a little more meaning than you might have actually considered at first. In Cerulean City, in Pokemon Red and Blue and Fire Red and Leaf Green, a girl can be found who owns a Slowbro. When talked to, she will command her Slowbro to use Sonic Boom. However, Slowbro is unable to learn Sonic Boom in any way, even still to this day. Moving along, Vermilion City is of course home to the Vermilion Gym, and I don't know about you guys, but I have always wondered why this gym's badge was called the Thunder Badge, but doesn't look like thunder or lightning or anything at all relating to electricity. Well, if you're like me and have wondered this, I am happy to say that I finally have an answer, and it's a pretty neat one, because while the Vermilion Gym badge doesn't really connect with its name, it does connect with the city, as it is most likely intended to resemble a sun, since Vermilion City is known as the Port of Exquisite Sunsets, and its map descriptions also mention sunsets as well. Lavender Town is probably the most iconic Kanto town there is, and its signature Pokemon Tower dates all the way back to the very origins of the series. In a pitch book for Pokemon when it was still known as Capsule Monsters that's dated all the way back to 1990, concept art of what would ultimately become the Pokemon Tower was present. According to Cut Content website The Cutting Room Floor, the caption on the image reads, "Grave of the Mythical Beasts," which indicates it was planned as a grave site at this time, just like Pokemon Tower. But it's unknown if the mythical beasts part of that actually meant something more and was maybe referring to actual legendaries or something that might have been planned to be buried here, or if it was simply just flavor text. Interestingly, however, in an early map of Lavender Town from the same time as the early Pewter City map from before, the Pokemon Tower is not present, despite the concept art likely predating this map. Just to the west of Lavender Town is Cerulean City, and there is a super neat secret that only appears here in Pokemon Crystal. When you finally make your way here in the post-game and climb up to the roof of the condominium building, interacting with the right side of the stairwell will yield a secret message that says, "There's graffiti on the wall. Player added a mustache." When it comes to Fuchsia City, it actually did not appear in the anime until the 431st episode, Time Warp Heals All Wounds, during the Battle Frontier arc. This is due to the fact that when Ash was initially in the area to get his badge from Koga about 400 episodes earlier, he was only ever seen in the gym itself, which was also located outside of the city instead of within it like in the games. Moving on to Saffron City, a character you can find in this settlement is Copycat, who famously gives you access to the move of the same name. She's also known for her love of Pokemon plush, and in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, she owns a Banette, which very fittingly is a Pokemon who used to be an abandoned plush doll in a past life. We have now reached the end of the road for Kanto, as the final city to cover here is Cinnabar Island. Within Cinnabar Island is the abandoned Pokemon Mansion, and in the original Red and Blue, it is actually possible to get trapped within this mansion. On the 3rd floor, there is a room with a large table and a burglar, and the two are positioned in such a way that if the player is standing on the right side of the table when they are encountered by the burglar for a battle, the player will be trapped between the two afterwards, unable to move on. If the player doesn't have an escape rope handy or a Pokemon with Dig, the only way to escape this situation is either to turn off your game and resort to your last save, or battle wild Pokemon until your entire team faints. It's a whole new world, cause we're going to Johto, and officially kicking off the 2nd gen towns is New Bark Town. One of the new additions to this town in the Heart Gold and Soul Silver remakes was a windmill that was placed by the side of every building. This isn't just a random addition, however, because it's actually a reference to New Bark Town's slogan, which is, "The town where winds of a new beginning blow," and in Gen 4, simply, "Winds of a new beginning." Upon leaving New Bark Town, you will eventually come to Cherry Grove City, and this place is just one big bowl of irony. Despite being based on the area of Nagoya, Japan, which is the 4th largest city in Japan, Cherry Grove City is the 2nd smallest settlement in Johto, only being bigger than New Bark Town in terms of population. Additionally, according to Bulbapedia, it's also the smallest settlement that is labeled as a city in the entire Pokemon world. It was, however, originally planned to be much bigger, like its real-world counterpart, as early unused maps of the town show. When it comes to Violet City, one interesting fact about it is that it more or less used to be combined with Ecruteak City into one big historically themed location that was known as Old City, which we learned when the 1997 demo of Gold and Silver was leaked. However, that's not all there is to say here. The real fact I had to share is that during this time when Violet City was Old City, the Pokeball maker himself, Kurt, actually used to live here, instead of in Azalea Town. Speaking of Azalea Town, one of its landmark locations is the Slowpoke Well, and this is a location you have to navigate and rid of Team Rocket before you can continue the story. Well, according to Bulbapedia, in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where you can have your Pokemon follow you, Slowpoke will react happily when it is talked to inside of the well as a following Pokemon, which is obviously a reference to this location being known as Slowpoke Well. After leaving Azalea Town, you'll next come to Goldenrod City, and I have got a cool one for you here, because during an earlier iteration of Johto's creation, you could actually travel directly from Goldenrod City to Olivine City, via a water route that extended past the shores of the Goldenrod Radio Tower and would have connected to Olivine City's port area on the south end of the city. Despite this watery area still being present in the final game, however, this is a route which, of course, no longer exists in the final product. And north from Goldenrod is Ecruteak City, and this place is known for its two iconic towers, the Tin Tower and the Brass Tower. The ironic thing about these two is that their names are actually flip-flopped in terms of which legendary Pokemon they represent, as the Tin Tower, named after the silver-colored metal known as tin, houses Ho-Oh, the mascot of Pokemon Gold. And the Brass Tower, which was the name of the burned tower before it was burned, is named after the gold-colored metal, despite originally playing host to the mascot of Pokemon Silver, Lugia. This is probably at least partially why the Tin Tower's name was changed to the Bell Tower in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. In Olivine City, meanwhile, this settlement also has an unused map to its name, which contains an unused house, and when inside, there is a lady who mentions the pharmacy in Ecruteak City. In the final games, the pharmacy is actually in Cianwood City, which reveals not only that the pharmacy was originally going to be in Ecruteak City instead, but also confirms to us that Cianwood City didn't even exist at all originally, as the pharmacy being in Ecruteak can be explained by the fact that Olivine originally connected to Goldenrod City, as mentioned before, instead of Cianwood City. And Cianwood City was nowhere to be found on this early map where this early connection between Olivine and Goldenrod can be seen. And speaking of Cianwood, with it originally not existing, you may be wondering where its gym would have been during this time frame, since after all, you still need to have 8 gyms in the region regardless. Well, the answer to that would be that Cianwood's gym was originally in Cherry Grove City, back when Cherry Grove was a bit bigger as previously mentioned. As a bonus fact, Mahogany Town didn't have a gym either at this time, as its gym existed in a second town that existed in the area around Azalea Town. These two towns, each with a gym, would eventually be combined to form Azalea Town, with the one extra gym from the town that was effectively cut eventually being moved to Mahogany Town in the process. And now that we bring up Mahogany Town, there is actually evidence that suggests that Price, the town's gym leader, was not originally an Ice-type specialist, and used some other type instead. This is because, firstly, Mahogany Town is the only Ice-type gym city where no snow appears at any time. Additionally, the town's slogan is Home of the Ninja, which is completely unrelated to the Ice type or what happens in this town, other than possibly being loosely tied to how Team Rocket are undercover here, but that's a bit of a stretch in my opinion. Furthermore, Pryce does not dress in winter attire in his original design as you would expect for an Ice-type gym leader. I mean, he's wearing shorts for goodness sakes. And he even appears as a sort of old kind of ninja, kind of like an old Koga almost, in his old official art. All of which indicates that he wasn't designed with the Ice type in mind, and the Ice type was instead potentially just given to him at the last minute. And finally, we arrive at Blackthorne City, the site of the final Johto gym and the last city we will be covering in this video. Speaking of the gym, if you have Entei with you as your following Pokemon when you enter the gym, it will roar when talked to. At least according to Bulbapedia again. I tried to find some footage demonstrating this, but I unfortunately wasn't able to. Anyway, this is actually a direct connection / reference to Entei's Pokedex entries, where it mentions that volcanoes erupt when it barks, and that it embodies the passion of magma. And obviously, Claire's gym is completely filled with magma, or lava if you want to get technical, making for an extremely nice attention to detail. And there you have it, everyone. If you enjoyed the video and would like to see future videos covering more cities and towns in Pokemon, leave a like and a comment, and share the video around so this series can do well enough to continue. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're new for more content, and if you would like to win a free copy of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, check out my Spotify, as for every 3,000 new listeners I can get there by the time the games release, I'll be giving away a copy, and it also just supports the channel immensely as well, and is very much appreciated, so thank you for the consideration. With that said, I'll be back with another video very soon, and until then, as always, thank you all so much for watching this one. I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.